With 52 games left in this season, a question that has come up for me is what is the ceiling for this Detroit Pistons roster? And I want to dive into that in this video because I feel like a lot of us are excited. We saw the game against the Lakers, right? We saw the previous game. This team is putting it together and they're looking damn exciting. But what is the ceiling for this team for this season? I want to dive into that in this video. But before I do, this video was brought to you by Bridges and Stones Family and Relationship Care. You know, the holidays can be tough for a lot of us, whether it's distance from family, relationship issues, social isolation, or struggling to adapt to the weather of this season. Depression and loneliness can get to us all. The season doesn't have to be something to dread, though. It can also be your opportunity to learn coping skills and the steps you need to move into healthier relationships. Contact Bridges and Stones today for a free consultation with a professional coach to get the support you need. Don't struggle alone. The link is in the description box below. You know, it's kind of a cool activity to project the outlook for a team. But I think where a lot of people kind of get lost in the sauce a little bit, if I can say, is when they're a little bit unrealistic, right? We want to go get this superstar player, or we want to win a championship this year, and it's not necessarily following the trend of what has already been taking place on this team, on this roster, what the front office has said, right? We know Trajan Langdon, JB Bickerstaff, these guys communicated at the beginning of the season that they wanted to make moves to improve the roster without having to leverage and give up significant assets. They wanted to acquire the assets. They don't want to give up their young guys. They want to reinforce the development of these young guys while pursuing winning. And so far, so good. At 13 and 17, they are 4 games away from 500. They are the 10th seed in the Eastern Conference playoff race. Cade Cunningham is looking like an all-star. JADEN Ivey is looking like he can be that number 2 option alongside of Cade Cunningham. Asar Thompson, Ron Holland, I'm going to get into all these other guys. They're trending in the right direction. So what is their ceiling? What is their ceiling? I want to start with probably the first aspect of this team where I see the potential for progress. It's between Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham. I want to see them work together better. I want to see them learn each other's strengths in a way where you can see them beginning to develop the chemistry, much like you see between, let's say, Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, where they understand each other and they learn how to work off of each other. They learn how to feed off of each other. They understand how each other operates and they know where to be. They know when to turn it on, when to defer. They know when to get the other person involved. They know how to motivate the other person. They know how to look them in the eye and demand more. They know how to reinforce the other person's game. And this is something that I think is really important because for them to be the number 1, number 2 options on a playoff or championship contending team, which I think they have a ceiling to be. Literally, I did a video over the summer about how I think that they can be the next Kyrie and Luka, a dynamic scoring duo, 2 guys that can drop 30 on you at any time, if not more, and it keeps a defense on its heels in a way that gives you an advantage every single night out. And if one of them is sitting out, you still have a significant star and gravity as an offensive engine to be able to give your team an opportunity to win every single night. But the chemistry part of it, this is where I see the opportunity for growth. This is where I see it increasing the ceiling. That as they begin to lean on each other, it'll make the game easier for the both of them. I think there's times where each of them forces a little bit, where they still kind of try to be the guy and to show up and to lead instead of leaning on one another so that they can conserve as much energy as possible, so that they can maximize their opportunity to keep their foot on the pedal, to be able to continue to put pressure on the defense, continue to get people in foul trouble, to continue to create advantages while not having to exert as much energy. And I think that that's the probably the primary area that I see for an opportunity for growth to increase this team's ceiling. And I'm going to get to the full outcome of the team's ceiling um, at the end of the video. The next area is in the improvement of Asar and Ron Holland's defense. Now, I know some of you might be like, well, what do you mean improvement? They're playing phenomenal defense, and they are. They're also foul magnets. They're also two individuals that it's hard to rely upon them at times to know and gauge just how close and how far they need to be, when to pressure and get up into a guy and when to back off, when to drop back and play more and help, when to apply pressure, how to apply pressure based upon the situation of the game, right? If you have a LeBron James, you're not trying to body him up 35 feet away. You actually want to goad him into taking a jump shot, which means you need to back off a little bit, right? You need to give him a little bit of pressure to make him uncomfortable and then back off and use your length with your wingspan to keep a hand up in case he pulls it, right? Like you need to understand that situation. You need to be able to understand when to pressure a guy and how much to pressure a guy. Hey, if you pressure Jordan Clarkson so much that he's getting frustrated and he's throwing an elbow or trying to knock you down and he's complaining to the referee, he's telling the referee to look for a foul on you, which means the next time he gets the ball, what is he trying to do? Draw the foul on you, which means you need to back off and give him a little bit of space and just move your feet. Now you have him thinking about trying to draw a foul on you instead of actually thinking about running the offense and getting his team involved and fulfilling the actual scheme of the game, right? You already did your part. You got him out of his game. You are in his head. Back off. Don't get the foul called on you, right? Like these are the things that they have to learn. And as much as they're already totally impressive, and inspiring this team in terms of their transition offense, their transition defense, their ability to cut off driving lanes and move their feet, quick hands to get deflections and loose balls and create turnovers and block shots and getting on the boards. I mean, all the hustle plays, all the utility work that they do is phenomenal. But now we need to see understanding and wisdom that comes with ability. This is the difference between somebody like a Tumani Kamara who can play 35 minutes a game, a Herb Jones who can play 32 to 36 minutes a game, and an Asar and Ron Holland who can only play 13 to 16 minutes in a game. Because they get situation. They get how to apply themselves. And so I think that's the next thing. The last part is helping Jalen Duren get back to where you tried to start him off at the beginning of the season. At the beginning of the season, one thing that JB Bickerstaff talked about was getting Jalen Duren to become more of a facilitator at the top of the key. Dribble handoffs, hitting players backdoor, cutting to the basket, with a little drop pass, bounce pass. They were looking for him to be more skillful with the ball, not merely just posting up and attacking the rim, which he's phenomenal at. He's actually really, really skilled at attacking straight line drives to the basket, attacking other opposing big men. However, they wanted to add a wrinkle to his game. The problem was that not only was he trying to figure out the timing and adding to some turnovers that was kind of compiled because everyone else was still figuring themselves out, but because of the fact that they didn't have perimeter defensive containment, he was getting into foul trouble a lot because he was out of position. Now you add to that they had an extremely hectic schedule at the beginning of this season, meaning that they played a considerable amount of back-to-back games against pretty high competition. You ended up in a situation where he's fatigued, he's overthinking, he's out of position, and it seemed to kind of just snowball on him. And a lot of people got down on him because of that. I understand our expectations, but he's 21 years old. He's going to continue to progress and get better. So I think that a better outlook might be that he's starting to figure it out. He hasn't been in foul trouble since Asar Thompson came back. Jaden Ivey is back. Ron Holland is playing really well. You notice he's only ending games with 2 to 3 fouls instead of 5 and 6. He's doing a better job of keeping his verticality and not just swiping at the ball and actually securing that defensive rebound, right? He's in the game more. He's more reliable and able to be counted upon because he's not being constantly caught out of position. And now that he's figuring that out and the team has the necessary components to help him with that, I think you're going to start seeing this coaching staff, especially over this 2-day break, right? They might start saying, hey, let's try to get some more dribble handoffs. Let's try to get some more top of the key isolations. Let's get some more pick and rolls. Let's get Jalen Duren involved in the game more because we saw that when he is. Like the game, I believe it was against the Miami Heat where he was about, I think he was 7 for 7 from the field. Right? He's an incredible finisher around the rim, especially when he's finishing around bigs that aren't, 4 inches taller, like when he's playing against the Milwaukee Bucks. But that's kind of a rarity where he's playing teams that are significantly bigger or they have multiple 7-foot defenders like against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Those matchups are always going to be hard for him. But the majority of the league, you got guys that are skinny and about his height. Daniel Gafford, he's got about 15 to 20 pounds on him, especially of muscle, right? You got guys like Alex Sarr, he's got 40 pounds of muscle on him, right? Bam Adebayo even, right? He's an inch or two taller, right? He's longer. He can finish over those guys. He can actually impose himself. And so I think as Duren figures out how to reassert himself, I think we're going to see him take a jump. I think he can have the type of last 2/3 stretch of this season where he gets back up to averaging double digits, maybe 13 to 15 points a game, around 10 rebounds a game, maybe a block a game. And he's far more efficient, far more consistent. His minutes get back up to around 25 to 30 minutes a game, which is where they want to see him. And I think that when you combine those 3 areas, the chemistry between Ivey and Cade Cunningham, right? And some people might say you can also throw in the progression of Tobias Harris. But I think you saw at the beginning of the season he was struggling with the shot. And then he figured out his shot after, 6 or 7 games. And all of a sudden he was knocking it down, right? And he was super efficient. I think after coming back from a little bit of injury, he's struggling a little bit. But he got a 2-day break. I think he's going to come back refreshed. And you're going to start seeing he's knocking down that 3-point shot again, right? So I'm not really worried about him and the other veterans. But it's to say that if Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham work out that chemistry, if Sarr Thompson and Ron Holland figure out how to sustain that defensive effort, and then Jalen Duren kind of begins to step up into where this team has foreseen his next step in terms of facilitation, I think that's going to elevate this team's outlook. I had them between 32 and 35 wins this season. I think that puts them around 35 plus, right? Knock on wood about health, but all things considered, if they address those areas, there's few teams that offer what this team does. 2 star level players, 2 Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham, 2 incredible wing defenders, multiple high level volume movement shooters, right? Solid veterans, really good coach in terms of X's and O's, system, adjustments, culture building, and definitely rotations, right? What the Golden State Warriors wouldn't do to have a JB Bickerstaff who can do those things, right? And then you start seeing Jalen Duren figure out. I think what we're going to see is this team begins to push teams more than anyone imagined. I think they're going to end up at around 36, 37 win season, potentially play-in, if not right outside, which is what I projected from the beginning of the season. But as always, I want to know what you all think. What do you think is the ceiling of this team? What do you think are the steps to get to that ceiling? Get at me in the comment section. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. And I'm going to get at y'all next time. Peace.